What if I told you that the first sin wasn't eating a fruit, but rather was listening to advice? That before Chavah, or as she's called in English, Eve, before she ate the fruit, before she even touched the tree, she opened herself up to something far more dangerous: the seed of the serpent. A seed so poisonous, so dangerous, but yet it was planted deeply within her soul, deeply within her, and really that same seed has been passed on to mankind ever since. Let's unpack that today in this session of the Shoemaker workshop. What exactly was going on back there in the garden? We're going to start as a bit of a review with Likutei Moharan, Torah Zion, which is Torah number 7 by Rebbe Nachman in his seminal work, Likutei Moharan. Just a little bit of a review from last time. We talked about how it's absolutely so important to understand how we obtain truth. We learned that if we have a lack of Emunah, we end up in exile, in galut, which is really fundamental in our mind. And then we learned, however, that if we repair Emunah, we get out of exile. And then we say, well, how do we repair Emunah? Well, one thing we need to do is to fuse truth, to put truth into our soul. And when truth comes into our soul, it helps to repair the Emunah. So we need truth. And we have to be willing to accept truth. And then we said, great, where do we find truth? And then we learned that Rebbe Nachman says we have to go to the tzaddikim, specifically the tzaddik ador, and the tzaddik of all of the generations, and seek their counsel, seek their advice. Now, and then accept it, internalize it, and follow it. And that's how we repair the fundamental breach in Emunah. Go back to the time when Klal Yisrael, just as an aside, crossed over the sea. And it says in the Pasuk that they believed in Hashem and they believed in Moshe, Avdo. Moshe meaning Hashem's servant. So it says that he believed, meaning they had Emunah. That's what the Pasuk says. They had Emunah in Hashem and they had that Emunah in Moshe, his servant. So we see from the Torah itself in plain language that to have full and total Emunah means you have to have Emunah in Hashem and you have to have Emunah in the tzaddik. So this is what Rebbe Nachman is talking about when he says that we have to go to the tzaddik and listen to their advice and go through with it. That's a part of repairing Emunah. So we have full and total Emunah. Now, then we learned last week that to have that kind of Emunah is akin, it's likened to receiving the seed, the zera, of the tzaddik. And we went through the whole Kabbalistic idea about that, how that sort of works out, the role of the kidneys in maturing that seed from the tzaddik, which really just is advice. And the kidneys are not really kidneys like physical kidneys, they're really the sefirot of Netzach and Hod, which are the organs or the sefirot of maturing the seed, which is the chokhmah that comes down from the brain, gets matured, it gets sort of fleshed out and gets laid out plainly and clearly for each and every single one of us so that we can apply the chokhmah of the Torah individually in all of our lives. And that is akin to marriage, to nisuin with the tzaddik. Yichud, union, zivug with the tzaddik. Now the flip side is what we're going to talk about today. What about the other side of the equation? What if we accidentally or even purposely join up on the side of Tuma? Not on the side of the tzaddik, but on the side of those who oppose the tzaddik, on the side of the Sitra Agra. Let's now begin to go over, one paragraph is a review, and then we're going to go forward with some new material. That's what we said last time. Again, it's impossible to come to truth unless we draw near to the tzaddikim. And we got to go in the way of their advice. And the fact that we receive from them their advice, we talked about that. We're not going to go into the details of that again today in detail, but when we accept their advice, then truth gets engraved into us really deeply. Like it says in Tehillim, and we explain this passage very deeply from Tehillim 51, Hein emed chafatzta, which is, Rebbe Nachman explains, when you want truth, speaking to us, when you, me, you and I, when we all really crave and desire truth, but tucho, that's in the kidneys, meaning in those organs of seed maturation, which is meaning in the sphere of Netzach and Hod, uva satum, which is in the heart, that which is sealed up. Chokhmah todieni, we say to Hashem, let me know, let me come to understand, implant within me wisdom. Ki ha'eitzos shemekabel mehem, the advice that we receive from the tzaddikim, hu b'chinat nisuin v'zivu. It's an aspect of marriage and being paired off, like husband and wife. And we become the wife, and the tzaddik becomes the husband. Okay, that's what we talked about last time. Now let's go further. Well, what if we receive advice from the wicked ones, from wicked people? Now all of a sudden, we have now gotten into a kind of marriage with the klipa, with the sitra achra, with the side of evil or bad. And this is what the pasuk says when it says they're back in Bereshit chapter 3 about the story of Adam and Chava. What does it say? It says that she says, when she was questioned by Hashem, why did you eat? You ate from the tree? How come you ate from the tree? She says, Nachash hishiani. The serpent, we translate this word in different ways. Some translate it, the serpent tricked me. Some translate it, the servant beguiled me. Some say the servant deceived me. Some say the servant seduced me. They're all basically the same. They're all trying to get at the core of what's really happening. They're all angles of the same thing. And really, perhaps the deepest meaning of the word is seduced. Now, seduced has a very sexual overtone to it. And it's supposed to. It's supposed to. Not in a literal sense. That's what we talked about last time, over and over again. We're not talking about literal physical things here. We're talking about spiritual, deeply spiritual ideas. And she's saying that I was seduced in a spiritual sense by the serpent. Then Rebbe Nachman says, and he's just quoting Chazal, which we're going to get to in a bit, Lashon Nisuin, the word, which means the language of marriage. We're going to see this in Rashi where he explains, it says very clearly that the word Hishiani is related to the word Nisuin, marriage. So Rebbe Nachman is not bringing down any Chiddush here, he's just bringing down Chazal. Atzot Nachash, Shekibla, the advice, or really it's plural, the advices, the counsels of the Nachash that she received, Hu Bechinat Nisuin. It was an aspect, he's not saying it was marriage, he's saying it's an aspect of marriage, meaning it's related to the concept of marriage. In what way? In the way that we're dealing with something deeply spiritual and a very deep unity. On the physical plane between a husband and wife, and on the spiritual plane between the person who receives advice and the person who gives it. Through this, now he's saying the word straight out, marriage. Hatil ba zoma, which means he put into her filth. He put into her contamination. He put into her pollution, which on the physical level is akin to say, people get off the track when they think about this being physical, and they think it was like the serpent physically raped her. Well, no, the serpent in a sense spiritually raped her. That's true. There's not a physical seed going into her that's filthy and disgusting, but there's advice that's going into her that's filthy and disgusting. And that advice is likened to the seed. Uvamamad al Har Sinai, and when Klal Yisrael stood on Har Sinai, Pasaga Zuhamatan, their pollution that they had in them, all the way back to the time of the Gan, all the way back to the time that Chavah was polluted by it, that was passed on generation after generation after generation after generation, it ceased. When Klal Yisrael stood at Har Sinai, the zoma of the snake ceased within them. So this teaches us something very profound. Maybe we don't fully think about it. Every single generation that went by, from Chava and Adam to their children, and from their children to their children to their children's children, all the way down 1,656 years, all the way down to the Mabul, to the flood, to Noach, and all the way down through Avraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov and all the 12 sons, and all the way through Mitzrayim and all the way to Har Sinai, generation after generation after generation, even, Klal Yisrael, we all had that Zoma in us. Every single person had that Zoma within us. Was it physical? No. Was it spiritual? Yes. What was it? Having received the advice of the snake, and every single person, every single generation of every single person, throughout all those years, continued to receive the advice of the snake. We'll eventually learn what it means. what exactly was the advice? Just eat the tree? What does it mean? Well, we'll have to unpack that too. We can either get to it today or it's up to them next time. But the fact that they received, all of mankind, starting from Chava, received it. Adam Arishon received that advice, and listened to what the Nachash said. That pollution was within mankind for all those years, and it was only when Klal Yisrael stood at Har Sinai that it ceased within them. Of course, the Goyim still had it, but not Klal Yisrael. So, why not? Let's read on. Ki sham kibalu taryag eitin dikdusha. Eitin is the Aramaic word that's used in the Zohar for eitzos. It just means counsel, advice, or mitzvahs, if you like. So what happened? When we stood at Har Sinai, we instead said, in a sense, to Hashem, we no longer are going to listen to the Nachash. We're not going to listen to the snake anymore. All we want to do is listen to you. We're willing to receive from you your advice. We're willing to receive from you the Holy Torah. What is the Holy Torah? According to these words, the Holy Torah is 613 advices. 613 pieces of advice. Now, we oftentimes think of them as being mitzvahs, commandments. But here and in the Zohar, they're referred to as counsel, as advice. What do you mean counsel? So counsel seems like something you can choose to do, listen to, or not listen to. The point is that what is the counsel? It's how to draw close to Hashem. The whole point of the Holy Torah is devekut. You can see this throughout the Chumash. You can see this all throughout Chazal. The whole point of Hashem giving His Holy Torah to Klal Yisrael is that we would learn how to approach Hashem, how to get close to Hashem. In a word, devekut. That's what it's all about. And so the Holy Torah, the 613, the Taryag Mitzvot, are literally 613 pieces of advice on how to draw close to Hashem, how to cling to Hashem. And when we stood at Har Sinai, we basically said, we only want your advice, Hashem. And those 50 days that preceded that, day after day after day, as we purified and cleaned out all of the sefirot, which means all of our soul, the different components of our soul, one bit after the other, right? Chesed, Sheva Chesed, and Gevur, Sheva Chesed, and so on, that we do during those 49 days of counting the Omer. And we had finally purified our soul completely of all that tumah of the snake, and we stood at Har Sinai. Now, Hashem, we are ready to listen only to you. You see, that's why the Zoma ceased from us. That pollution, that seed of the snake was no longer in us. And as a result, Klal Yisrael got involved in a marriage of holiness, or we say holy matrimony. And we all know this. We all know that Chazal teach. We understand this, that in a sense, Moshe Rabbeinu led Klal Yisrael out to Har Sinai, and it was like a big chuppah there, and Moshe Rabbeinu was acting as the agent to bring Klal Yisrael together with Hashem, and there was this marriage, and we know that there was a marriage, but now we're looking at it with a little different angle, a little deeper angle. What do you mean marriage? What is the marriage? It's the receiving of the Taryag Mitzvot. It's the receiving of the advice of Hashem. It's saying no longer we're going to listen to the advice of the snake, we're only going to listen to the advice of Hashem. That's the marriage. It's not like some kind of marriage, like you think of a marriage. It's not like that. It's a spiritual idea. So we have to learn to grow up from our perhaps infantile ideas that we learned when we were 5 years old, or 10 years old, or 13 years old, and begin to learn how to understand the Torah on a much deeper level. All right, let's go on a little bit more here in Likutei Moharan before we now look at some sources. Because we're going to double back here and unpack. We're just going to see the sources in the Masechet Shabbos and also in Rashi, and also in the Arizal, to make sure that we understand fully what's being said here. And then we're going to ask the question, what is the Chiddush that Rebbe Nachman is bringing down? We have to answer that question. V'lama nikra etza bivchinat nisuin. This is like a review from last week. Why is it that counsel is called after marriage? So this is what we learned last week. There's a little bit of a review here. Ki ha'klayot yoatzot, because the kidneys give counsel. Remember, what are the kidneys? The kidneys are the sefirot of Netzach and Hod. They're not the kidneys physically. They're just a word, kidneys, referring to the sefirot that, in a sense, correspond to the kidneys and the right and the left leg, the right and left kidneys. Now, this is stated explicitly by Chazal in Masechet Brachos, page Samach Aleph, which is page 61. But I'm not going to bring down that source. You can look it up on your own. Uklayot hem kilei ha'holada. Again, this is a stumbling block for people. It says that the kidneys are we'll call it, it says here, the vessels of gestation, or really the organs of of reproduction. What do you mean that? No, they're not. Like, was Chazal that, quote, dumb? Chas v'shalom. They weren't dumb at all. What does it mean when Chazal say that the kidneys are the organs of reproduction? It means kilei hazera, which is what we talked about again last week. What does that mean? Kilei hazera. It means the organs of seed. No, they're not. No, there's other organs in the body, don't you know, that are the organs of producing seed. Yes, but we're not talking about physical seed. We're talking about spiritual seed, and spiritual seed is eitzah, is counsel that comes from the moach all the way down into the sphere of netzach and hod, where they are matured. That's what it means by the fact that the kidneys are the organs of maturation, of gestation, and not gestation, but reproduction, meaning that the sphere of netzach and hod in the tzaddik is where the Holy Torah and the Chokhmah that comes from way beyond us is able to come down and in a very practical way be tailored for each and every one of us. And that happens in the Sefirot of Netzach and Hod, which is the Sefirot which is dealing with how to bring down this holy light and tailor it to each and every individual. That's what's being discussed by Chazal. Nimsa, so it comes out, Kishimakabalim Eitzah Me Adam. This is the Chiddush. And let me just preview it with a couple words. Rebbe Nachman is bringing down all these beautiful statements from Chazal and from the Chumash and from lots of other places in Tanakh, and you just say you could walk away thinking, okay, so he's just bringing down all these pieces of the pie. Very nice. No, that would be missing the tremendous Chiddush that Rebbe Nachman is bringing down. What is he really telling us? If you read Chazal, you find all these discussions about Chavah and the serpent, all the discussions about the kidneys, all the discussions about eitzah, all this stuff is always talking about it, let's say, on the cosmological level. Like the overarching way that the whole universe works. The grand picture. What Rebbe Nachman says to us is something way more personal. Nobody has said it like this until Rebbe Nachman comes along. This is his Chiddush. He says that it's not just cosmological, it's what we call ontological. Big fancy word. What does it mean? It means that it has to do with the nature of our own being, not just the structure of the universe, not just the way that the universe is put together, not just the fact that at the very beginning there was this cosmic encounter between Chavah and the Nachash. No, not just that. He says this: every single time that we receive counsel from somebody, a human being, whether a good person or a bad person, whether good advice or bad advice, we are reliving that cosmological, that cosmic encounter with the Nachash, or the repair of it, which should be the cosmic interaction with the tzaddik. Every single time we listen to anybody and we internalize their advice, he says, we're reliving that. That's the Chiddush. And that's what, if you read through Likutei Moharan, and you study deeply, and you think about what it is that Rebbe Nachman is saying, you will see this concept over and over and over again. He's not just bringing down Chazals and putting them together in a nice way that nobody ever put it. People put it together that way before. He's bringing it down deeply into our own personal psychology. Let's see it. He says it right here. Not just from the snake, from a person. It's like we're receiving from that person seed, zera. Vakol lefi adam, and everything's according to the person. Im rasha, o tzaddik. That's the great Chiddush of Rebbe Nachman. Every single encounter, day in and day out, we are reliving the encounter in the garden. Every single day we are there in the garden giving the exact same test that Chavah had. Every single day. Every single encounter with every single person. We have an opportunity either to blow it, chas v'shalom, or to repair it. That's what he's telling us. And he's telling us how to repair it. You tell me who else tells us how to repair it? Who goes out and teaches us how we repair the sin of Adam Arishon and Chavah in the garden? How do we do it? How do we do that? This is how we do it. This is what he's telling us. Literally, Likutei Moharan, the teaching of Rebbe Nachman, is not just, oh yeah, be happy. Yes, be happy. But the point is, why be happy? Because if you're happy, truly besimcha, and you prepare your Emunah, and you work on your bitachon and bittul, and you listen to this, and you go to the tzaddik, and you listen to what he says, you are, all those things together, repairing the sin in the very first sin, in the garden, and you're going back and repairing everything, fixing the whole world. This is what Rebbe Nachman teaches. You could call Likutei Moharan how to fix the whole world. That's what it is. It's a book of how to fix the entire history of the world. All right, now that's a little section from Likutei Moharan Zion, subsection 3. Now let's just look at the sources, some of the sources that Rebbe Nachman brings down, just so we know that he's not inventing this stuff. So this one is from Shabbos, the second Shabbos, page 146a. And it just says very plainly what we already read, Shebisha'ah sheba Nachash al Chavah, at the time that the snake, right, came. So it says, came to Chavah, came upon Chavah. I mean, it's very, very visual, isn't it? But it's not visual, because it wasn't in this world. It was in the world of Yetzir. It was in a higher world. But still, it's very visual language. That's where we can go wrong if we're not careful. Heitil ba zuma. He injected into her his zoma. Sounds very graphic. We're going to get to that. So we've explained it's not that. But it's so easy to fall into the trap. But this is what Chazal says in the Gemara. Yisrael she'amadu al Har Sinai pasku zu hamatan. And when Israel was standing there on Har Sinai, then their zoma, the filth, left them. It ceased. They didn't have it in them anymore. They were like babies, brand new babies. And it says without anything, an empty vessel to receive from Hashem. Awesome. Well, that's what Rebbe Nachman is bringing down. And there's a Rashi on that. So let's read now the Rashi on that Gemara. And he's giving a comment on Kishba Nachash al Chavah, on those words that when the Nachash came upon Chavah. What does Rashi say it means? Listen to this. And just ask yourself the question, how easy it is to think Rashi's talking about something physical. Rashi says, Kishanatan la Eitzah, when he gave to her advice, lechol mina eitz, to eat from the tree, ba aleha, he came upon her. Deceive, like it says in the pasuk, hanachash hishiani, like she said, the Nachash seduced me. Leshon nesuin, the language of marriage. Now you see, isn't it so clear from Rashi that it's all very physical? Isn't that the pshat? What does it mean, pshat? Pshat just means, at its very fundamental level, the meaning of the words. The meaning of the words. Pshat doesn't mean that's the way you are to understand it in its depth. Or even that's the way you are to understand it as it actually happened on a physical level. That's not what the word pshat means. The word pshat means the meaning of the words. And Rashi is simply giving you the pshat. He's telling you the meaning of the words. He's not telling you on what level those words played out on. That's the mistake we made when we think of pshat. We think pshat means physicality, but it's not. That's not pshat. The pshat here is not the physicality at all. The pshat here is the spiritual reality of it. How do we know? Let's read the next quote from the Arizal. This is from Shar Mamre Rashbi. This is a commentary on a part of the Zohar, which is called the Idra Rabbah. Very deep stuff, but this little extract is very easy to understand. Let's see what it says. This is now the words of the Arizal commenting directly on this point. So don't believe me. believe the Arizal. Why not? Okay, what does he say? Aval hizaher, be careful. That's what the Arizal says. Be careful. V'hi shamar b'nafshecha, and like guard your soul. Ma'od, like really be careful and really guard your soul. Al yaleh b'datecha, do not allow it to arise in your mind. Shehadvarim ke pshutan, that these words are according to their pashut explanation. Kemoshin Amar, Rabbeinu Zichronam Livracha, and then he quotes what we've been quoting. Sheba Nachash al Chavah v'heitil ba zuma, that the Nachash came to Chavah and injected into her his pollution, his filth, his seed. Ki chalila la'amin hadrim kepshutan. Chas v'shalom, that you would come to believe these words according to their simple meaning. So what is Rashi doing? Again, let's be clear. Rashi's just simply telling you the meaning of the words. He's painting it out for you. That's all he's doing. He's not telling you to apply it on the physical plane. That's what the Arizal is trying to caution us against. He says, yes, read Rashi, understand Rashi, but don't think that Rashi was talking about these things playing out on the physical plane. Don't think that about Rashi. That's what the Arizal is telling you. So they have it, black and white. That's what it is. That's what it means to accept the seed of the serpent. And when we listen to anybody, and that's the Chiddush of Rebbe Nachman, when we listen to anybody, we have to be exceedingly careful who we're listening to and whose advice we're seeking after, because we are fundamentally, existentially, ontologically, I hate to use those words, but they're just like really good words. We are literally reliving the encounter between Chavah and the snake, 24/7, whenever we listen to anybody. Therefore, you got to be super, super careful. You have to pay attention who you talk to and who you listen to, and whose advice you adhere to. And that's why Rebbe Nachman says, what do you do to receive truth? You have to go to the tzaddikim in the generation. Why? You better know who they are. If you don't know who they are, you're like swimming in the ocean and you're lost. How are you going to know? Just because somebody knows a lot of Torah, because he's some big rabbi in some shul? Maybe not. I don't know. Do you really know? You know, the Nachash didn't show up to Chavah looking like people think, like with a pitchfork and like pointing red ears and looking mean and nasty. That'd be kind of obvious. He came looking like a brilliant, malach, a big, brilliant light being that he was. All right, let's go on. Now, the question we want to ask now is, I'm going to turn over the page. We're going to read from what's called the Agra deceive. The Agra deceive it's a Kabbalistic work written by one of the main Talmidim of, I believe, the Vilna Gaon. And it's absolutely awesome in what it contains. And I pulled out a little section here that is really amazing, because he gets to the point of what do you mean, Nachash Hishiani, the Nachash seduced me. Now, we've talked all along. We're going to now turn a little bit. We're going to turn and we're going to answer the question, what exactly was this advice? Oh yes, eat the tree. Was that all it was? Eat the tree? No, it wasn't. Because if you actually read Bereshit, you read what the conversations took place was, it was more than just eat the tree. But we can't go through everything. We're going to read now what the Agra deceive says, what the essence of what his advice was. And if we know, this is the amazing thing, I'd like to cover this more next time, B'ezras Hashem. If we understand the Agra deceive well, we will understand Rebbe Nachman well, and we will understand exactly why Rebbe Nachman says the kind of things he says in this area that we're going to read right now. This is absolutely amazing. Sometimes you read Rebbe Nachman and you think, what? For those who know, Rebbe Nachman was extraordinarily harsh against reading philosophical works, scientific works, and all this kind of stuff. Very, very strong coming out against all this kind of wisdom of the world. It's absolutely, everywhere you go, Rebbe Nachman's talking about it. It's a lot in Sichot Haran, it's throughout Likutei Moharan, it's like all over the ways. And Rebbe Nachman writes about it in Likutei Halachot a lot. It's like everywhere. The question is, why? We're going to find out why. We're going to begin that why here tonight. Maybe another 10 or 15 minutes we'll spend on this, then we'll wrap up. And then B'ezras Hashem, we'll expand it next time. Because this is the way we fix. And we're going to understand this is exactly how we fix the sin in the garden. If we don't know what that sin was, then how are we ever going to figure out how to repair it? Oh, don't eat an apple. All right, so no more, honey, no more apples. No more apples in the house. No way. I want to repair the sin of Adam Rishon and the Chavah. No more apples. You see what I mean? I mean, I'm being silly, but I'm not being silly, because the point is totally valid. If we don't know what the actual sin was, then how are we really going to ever be able to figure out how to repair it? That's what we need Rebbe Nachman for, because he explains exactly what the problem was, and he tells us exactly how to repair it. All right. Let's read the Agra deceive. This is his comment on Chumash Bereshit. It's his comment, part of comment number 436. You can find this on Sefaria, by the way, if you'd like to. Now, first of all, he quotes from the pasuk in Bereshit chapter 3, which says, Vatomer, and she said, Haisha, or the woman said, meaning Chava said, Hanachash hishiani va'ochel. That's what she says to Hashem. She says to Hashem, the serpent seduced me, and I ate. Now, he explains what that means. Yesh lefaresh al pi ma shekatuv kama pa'amim inyan eitz hadat tov v'ra al pi pshuto. There is reason to explain this according to the pshat meaning of the words. What does that mean? Disgulat eitz hadat hazer haya lo chochmot hakirot hapilos sofit. He says the segula, not the segula in a good way, but the segula in a bad way, meaning that which that tree really does, what it's really all about, is all about wisdoms and investigations, research, and philosophies. That's what it's really all about. He'll explain, Va'elokim asa et adam yashar. Hashem, God, created man straight, plain, just, everything not complicated. Like the story, in Rebbe Nachman's story, the Chacham and the Tam. Hashem created mankind, Adam Rishon and his wife, Tam. Plain, simple, uncomplicated. Leval Yachagor, but Chakira Enoshit. Not to get involved in all these investigations and questions that people come up with, human research and human investigations, philosophical inquiries. That's not the way Hashem made man. Rak ayin ba'ayin. Hashem made man in the very beginning, before we did the sin, to just see things eye to eye. Not have to research it out and ask 1,000 questions. Just, it was obvious. Rak ayin ba'ayin yireh kivodo yitbrak shemo. That they just saw the awe of Hashem plainly, just like you look at a friend, or somebody, your husband, your wife, your children, whatever, and your house, and you just see them eye to eye. That's how Hashem made Adam and Chava, to understand the deep things of Hashem himself. Just plain. Clear as a bell. Bli shum safek, without any doubt whatsoever. But you see, we got all kinds of doubts, and we got all kinds of questions. And we want to investigate this, and research that, and inquire about this, and try to ask all these sophisticated questions. Like the Chacham in the story, the Chacham and the Tam. Like the issue of something that's like super clear to the eye. She'en adam choker ima inyan hanira lo hu be'nimsa im lav. If I see something with my eye, I don't ask the question, is it really there or not? If I go walk outside and I see a tree, so is that really a tree? Oh, maybe it's not really a tree. Maybe it's just something disguised as a tree. Maybe it's there to fool me. Maybe it's really a leopard. Yes, it's really a leopard. It's not really a tree. It's all a delusion. No, it's just a tree, isn't it? That's the way Hashem made man. It's a tree. What do I need to ask 1,000 questions for? It's a tree. Is it really a tree? Is it not really a tree? Is it really Hashem? Is it not really Hashem? Is it really a holy Torah? Is it not really a holy Torah? Are the Jewish people really, the Am Kadosh, they're really not? Is the Torah true, not true? I don't know. It's you gotta ask a lot of questions. Kevan shehu ro'ehu ayin ba'ayin. But when somebody sees something just eye to eye, usgula reitz haya lahakshim haguf v'yitz tarech lachakirot. The segula, the essence of what that tree did was, get those words, it materialized the body. The real essence of that tree is that it materialized the goof, the body of Adam Arishon and Chava, and it opened them up so that they now needed to ask all kinds of questions and inquire and get involved in all this sophisticated questions. Fuhu nikra eitz Daas overall, and that's why it's called. And he has a very deep idea, and he's not unpacking it all. He's expecting you to unpack it. Well, I'm trying to do my best, but notice when you look at the words, it says this is why it's called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I know he's got the gerish, or the gershayim in the word tov and in the word ra. In other words, he's telling you, don't just read the word good and bad as if it's good and bad. He's telling you there's something deeper there. What's the deeper there? Let's go on. V'hine ha'choker k'sheba lachkor. That what does somebody, a researcher, an investigator, an inquirer, a philosopher, when he comes to investigate, min ha'hechreach hu la'atot hakirat iyuno latov ולהפכו כל חלקי וצידדי הסותר את הדבר הזה יש או אין. There's a lot there. He says when somebody basically comes along and has to ask questions and inquire about something, what does he have to do? He has to kind of go this way, and then he's got to go that way. He's got to go to the left, and he's got to go to the right, and he's got to ask this question, and he's got to ask a contradictory question on the other side, and he goes back and forth on every different side, all different angles, destroying this argument, trying another argument, destroying the other. You know, it sounds like the way the Gemara is written. And it's written that way for a reason, because we got to repair that. Well, that's another topic. But the reason that we do this in Gemara is because we have to repair this problem. And now we're doing it in Kedusha to fix the whole problem. But again, that's a deeper topic. But what is he saying? He's saying that in order to figure out whether something is yish or whether it's ayin, to find out whether something is real or not real, to find out whether something is or whether it is not, whether its essence is true or whether its essence is not true. That's what somebody does when they investigate something. They gotta just, and I've said this before, I spent, 40 years of my life being a scientist. I know about this, okay? I know about this way too much, but I know about this. And this is what everybody does. Whether you're a formal scientist or you're a formal philosopher or you're a ditch digger or anybody in between, I don't care who you are or what you do. We all have fallen into this trap of always trying to be figuring things out, being sophisticated. Why did we do this? Because Chavah did it, and she ate from the counsel of the snake. And what was the counsel of the snake? You need to figure things out yourself. Don't just accept what Hashem said. The whole point of Hashem creating you was so that you would descend down, become physical, and then you would be in the dark, and there you would have to struggle and figure out and ask 1,000 questions. That's what Hashem wants from you, Chavah. Don't you know that? Oh, really? Yeah, that's what Hashem wants from you, Chavah. Makes sense. Give me that apple. V'zeh ha'isha. This is what it means when it says when the woman said Hanachash hishiani, that the Nachash seduced me. Hainu. Now he's going to explain. Oh, what a deep idea! This is awesome and amazing. He's going to dissect the word hishiani into 3 pieces for us, and he's going to tell us what it means on its deepest level. What does it mean that? What was the seduction? We never really got there. I mean, I just kind of set it out, but I kind of jumped the gun. What was the seduction? Yes, he seduced her. Very nice, he seduced her. She fell into his trap. Eat. What was the essence of the seduction? What was the essence of the eitzah? This is what practically nobody really knows. Nobody understands this. It's shocking. It's like hidden. And it's not hidden because Rebbe Nachman explained it. We just read right over the words. So the Agra is spelling it out so clearly that you can't read over the words anymore. He says, what was the real essence of that Hishani? What was the essence of that seduction that she admitted to? He says here, Hainu ha'hei hi hapula. The hey in the beginning means action. It's the part of the word that makes it a verb. In other words, he's saying there's an action. You have to do something. The Nachash was saying you have to do something, Chava. You got to get involved. You got to be that scientist. You got to be that philosopher. You got to be that inquirer. You got to figure things out. That's the hay. That's the hay of action, of being, of doing. Not just seeing eye to eye. When you see eye to eye, you don't do anything. You just stand there looking. And the Nachash says, don't just stand there and look. Do something. No, just stand and look. Ein b'ayin. That's what David HaMelech says. Matai avo ve'era'eh pnei Elohim. It says it in Tehillim. When will I see? Not when will I think about, when will I figure it out, when will I like chop it? He said, when will I see you, Hashem? Okay, that's the hey. The nishar, now we have 5 other letters. She and then ani. So he rearranges those letters. She becomes yesh, and ani becomes ayin. Yesh v'ayin. That's what he said before. He said the whole thing is you got to inquire whether yesh or whether it's ayin, whether it's real or whether it's not real, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Tov and Ra don't necessarily mean Tov and Ra. What they mean is it real or is it not real? Is it yesh? Is it substance? Does it have existence or does it not? Is it true? Is it false? Is it fake or is it real? What's really the truth? Inquire. This magazine, the National Enquirer, it said, inquiring minds want to know. That's the seduction of the Nachash. So that's what he says it is. The word, when she said Hishiani on a deep level, she was saying the following. She was saying, I was fooled into believing this, that I must get involved in, that's the hey, I must get involved in the action of trying to figure out on my own, without Hashem, without Emunah, without seeing eye to eye, whether or not something is yesh, or whether something is ayin, whether something is tov, or whether something is ra, whether something is real, or whether it's fake. That's what she said to Hashem was the true seduction, the true trap that she fell into. And we've all fallen into it since, except the moment we stood at Har Sinai. And if you read Rebbe Nachman clearly, you will see over and over and over again, he says, stop falling into the trap of the Satan. He doesn't say it that way. He says, stop reading all these philosophical books. Stop getting involved in all of this chikir, all this research, all this inquiry. Why is he saying that? Now you know why he's saying that over and over and over again. Because he's saying when you do, all you're doing is fulfilling and repeating and reiterating and going over and over and over and over and over again the sin that we had from the very beginning, the advice of the snake, the seed of the snake, the seduction. Do it. Just go figure it all out. Hainu, and then he says here, Hainu hanachash heviani lachakor bachakirot yesh ayin. That the snake brought me to the point where all I wanted to do was get involved in investigations and inquiries and research, try to figure out whether something is yesh or whether it's ayin. Wow. Be'omero kizeh kol adam. When he said, meaning the snake, said to her, you know what? That's what you're all about. Hashem doesn't want you to be an animal without no Daas, without anything. He wants you to get involved. Come on, use your brain. Think. 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 On your own. Think for yourself. Come on. That's the seduction. That's the temptation. And boy, we believed it. 6,000 years almost of history, and everybody, almost rare exception, believes, well, yeah. Otherwise, what are we? Animals? No, Hashem gave us a brain to think. Think on your own. Think for yourself. As long as we keep believing that, and boy, is that going to be hard to get through, we'll never return back to repairing the sin of Adam Rishon and Chavah. Okay, therefore I ate. And then he says, Haven ki kitzarti. He says, understand this because I just gave it to you in brief. That's what he said. Just those words right there. Two little paragraphs. He says, I just gave it to you in brief. He says, you need to get into this and really understand it well. Okay, so I did my best that I could try to explain it, but this requires real deep thinking. I hate to use the word out thinking, but learning and studying and libud and hitbodedut, because this is what it's all about. I don't think you're going to find this too many other places. I don't think so. It's all there in Chazal. I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, you can see I'm not making it up. It's not a Chiddush for me. It's not me. I'm nothing. For some strange reason, Hashem guides me to sources. I don't know why. I'm glad He does. But that's what we're into. That's what we have to repair. Whereas B'ezrat Hashem, I would like to go into this more detail next time and look at where Rebbe Nachman says this over and over and over again. So you can see it inside of Breslov teaching himself. And now you'll know why he says it. It's not just he was against philosophy. He wasn't against philosophy per se. I mean, in and of itself. He's not against being a scientist in and of itself. You need to know why he was. Now you have a clue. As Hashem, we'll pick it up next week. Until then, have yourself a great week.